If you're struggling to turn the film ideas in your head into actual movies, this video is for you. When I first got into filmmaking, my head was bursting with ideas for movies and shows that I could make, but I had no idea how to take those ideas and turn them into actual films that looked like the movies from Hollywood that I was watching at my local theater. Making a film can be completely overwhelming, which is why in this video I'm going to break down one of my most recent films and reveal the 5 core elements that they use in Hollywood to shoot the kind of footage that they produce for worldwide distribution. These are the 5 core elements that we focus on in depth in the Shooting Your Film section of our program, teaching filmmakers how to direct and produce awe-inspiring films, the 30-day Filmmaking Kickstart. So in this video, we'll look at my past shorts to break these things down and even go on set of some of those films. And make sure you stay to the end of the video, because once we finish talking about those 5 core elements, I'm also going to give you some direction on the side of film production that most filmmakers outside the professional film industry completely forget. The first of the 5 core elements is the camera and lens that you shoot on. Now, let me share with you one of the biggest industry secrets about filmmaking that most independent filmmakers don't realize. The camera you shoot your film on doesn't matter at all. And to prove it, I shot my last film on a camera that cost less than $1,000, the Sony ZV-E10. Here's some footage from the film, and here's a side-by-side from the ZV-E10 compared to my $10,000 camera rig. Can you tell which is which? Both could absolutely pass as professional quality. Even in Hollywood, where they shoot on multi-million-dollar budgets and can shoot on literally whatever camera they want, there's films like The Creator where they chose to shoot on a less expensive camera like the Sony FX3, a camera you can pick up today for under $5,000. That's right, $100 million film distributed by one of the biggest studios in the world, where they chose to shoot on a $4,000 camera. The camera you shoot on does not matter. What really matters are the other 4 core elements that we're going to talk about in this video, but let's go ahead and take a look at what does matter when it comes to your camera. When we shot My Story, the film I shot on the Sony ZV-E10, we intentionally chose to shoot using lenses that could stop down to a low f1.4 aperture, which lets us blur out the background of the shot behind the actors. Take a quick look at this comparison between the footage shot using the lens with a higher f-stop versus these lower aperture Sigma lenses.
You don't get to tell me who goes in my book and who doesn't. You don't get to tell me what's worth my time and what isn't.
There's definitely some other important factors when it comes to choosing your camera settings and your lenses, but when you're first getting started, this is the main thing that I'd recommend really paying attention to when setting up your camera. Now let's talk about what really matters when it comes to making a film that looks incredible. That's your lighting, and to talk about that, let's go on a set of My Story and break down the simple 3-point lighting setup we use to shoot the footage that you see now. Alright, so we are on set for My Story right now. Got our camera rig set up. Just gonna walk through real quick how we did our lighting setup for this. So if we just turn on all the natural lights in the room, this is what it looks like. It doesn't look very good. So whenever I come into a location, I like to just see how the lights fall in the room. Basically what we've done is we've taken these lights here, just these like warmer lights, and just as low as they'll go, and turn them on for a little bit of ambience. And then have these lights over here as just practicals, again, lighting this whole wall, lighting the background here. That gives us kind of our ambience natural look. Then we add this guy, which kind of like adds our whole fill of the room. Basically, in the shot, you will never see this side of the room because we don't want to shoot into the TV because of reflection. So instead, we've got this light hitting this wall, and it almost looks like moonlight coming in. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to match the color temperature of these lights coming in from the side that are the overhead lights. And we're going to do that with this tube light. So Chris, you want to go ahead and strike that on for me? And what that's going to do is just make it look like there's a lot more light coming into the scene than there really is. Then to accent the moonlight coming in over here, we're going to go ahead and strike that guy on. And that just adds a little bit of hair light coming in, just makes the whole image pop a little bit. And then we're going to add one practical in the background. Chris, if you want to strike that practical back there. And that gives us our shot. The third core element that they use in Hollywood to make their films look incredible is choosing great locations and having great set design. Now at the end of the video, when we talk about the side of film production that most indie filmmakers forget about, we'll go more in depth on planning out your set design and how to find great locations. But real quick, let's take a look at some of the basic principles behind utilizing whatever location you have to its fullest extent. First, of course, you want to make sure that your location is motivated by your story, that it makes sense that you're shooting in the place you're shooting in. But even once you get into your chosen location, you want to make sure that you're utilizing the location well to get the most cinematic shots that you possibly can. So tell me which shot looks better. Me just against a blank white wall like this with nothing really behind me, you know, even if the lighting looks good, I still just have a white wall behind me. Or if we move out away from the wall a little bit and let you see more of the background. Now we're kind of shooting at an angle where you can see a lot more of the room behind me. There's a lot more happening in the shot behind me. You'll notice that since the background isn't just completely plain, you can actually see that it's blurred out now. When I'm against the white wall, like technically speaking, the wall is blurred out, but since there's no detail in it, you can't even tell that it's blurred out behind me. When I'm in a shot like this though, there's a lot more character in the location around me to help me tell my story. So you want to make sure that you minimize the amount of just white space in the scene. You can see that even while there is some white wall behind me in the scene, it's just taking up a lot less of the frame compared to my other shot. So when you first lock into a location, one of the first things that you want to be thinking about is how can you capture this environment in a way to make it not look boring? How do you make sure that you aren't just shooting into the white walls, even if you have to reposition some of the furniture or something like that to make it happen? You really want to think about how you can capture the location in the most interesting way possible and the way that best tells your story. The fourth element that impacts the visual quality of your film is something that a lot of filmmakers overlook as they focus on camera settings, lighting, and other things like that. But something that can make just as big of a difference as the location you're shooting at or the camera settings that you're using is the wardrobe of your cast. Take a look at this shot from My Story. Notice that the clothes being worn by our actor, John, accounts for about 30% of the frame. That means even if your lighting is incredible, your camera settings are on point, and the performance is heart-stopping, 30% of what your audience is seeing is being taken up by a t-shirt and a jacket. That means to successfully set an emotional tone for your scene, you need to be super intentional about what your actors are wearing. I mean, imagine how different the scene would feel if John was wearing a bright red t-shirt because I didn't have any notes for wardrobe for him and he just wore the first shirt he pulled out of his closet that morning. It would completely change the tone of the scene. Like every element of your film, your wardrobe needs to be motivated by the story and the emotional energy that you're portraying in the scene. For most of My Story, I wanted the world to feel very cold and constraining, symbolizing the imposing weight of Liz's decision to eliminate Mike from her work and life. So when it came to props and wardrobe for the film, I intentionally made sure that everything had darker, cool colors like blue, navy, brown, and black. The only color in the scene is the warm lights being cast on the actors, which really highlights them and creates some separation between them and the rest of the environment. When it came to the props for the film, like the mug that Trick is drinking from, to even the books we had custom made for the film, we followed this same color scheme to establish the emotional feel that we were going for in the film. The fifth and final element of shooting a cinematic image that we'll cover before taking a look at the side of filmmaking that most filmmakers ignore is the performance of your actors. Performances will make or break your film, so making sure that you're taking the time with your talent to get heart-stopping acting for your project is essential to making your film feel like the movies you watch in theaters. Often, I like to do a Zoom call with my actors before the shoot to read through the script with them and make sure they understand the nuances of each character and their part in the story. Doing a script read-through like this also helps you find where there may be some holes in the script, because hearing your actual actors read the script pretty much always gives you a new perspective on the story. And after the read-through, feel free to encourage them to do research and explore different aspects of the characters to bring depth and authenticity to their performances. And when you're on set shooting the film, you want to make sure that you establish a safe environment that encourages experimentation and taking risks. As a director filmmaker, you're hidden behind the camera, so what you say is the most important thing, but it's not the same for actors. Actors are in front of the character with their whole body being the center of attention, meaning that every eye twitch, nervous glance, or jittery leg becomes the scrutiny of everyone on set. And when you give direction to your actors to communicate clearly and effectively, avoid using vague or negative language. Instead, use positive and specific language to convey your ideas. For example, instead of saying, "Don't do it like that," say, "Try it this way." It's always better to tell somebody what to do rather than what not to do. Now, let's talk about the side of filmmaking that most filmmakers completely forget about. The problem is that you've probably got a million ideas for films that you could make floating around in your head, but you don't know how to take those ideas and actually go through the really practical steps of things like finding actors, locations, crew, and equipment needed to turn the idea into a powerful film that looks like it should be in theaters. And here's the unfortunate reality. Most filmmakers who want to break into the industry spend all their time learning about camera settings and watching tips and tricks videos on YouTube that absolutely do not improve the quality of your films. That's why I created the 30-day Filmmaking Kickstart. In the program, we not only teach you how to make your films look incredible on a budget, we walk you step by step through the process of becoming a real filmmaker and making your film ideas into awe-inspiring movies that look like Hollywood quality films in just 30 days. That means focusing on the core things that actually make a film good, like character development, story structure, and directing your actors to draw out A-list performances, not just cheap camera tips and tricks like you find on YouTube. We also cover the filmmaking topics that no one else is talking about, like how to find professional actors for your films even if you don't have any budget. And instead of telling you to just go out and buy a nicer camera and upgrade your gear with money you don't have to spend right now, we show you how to get the cinematic look for your films with equipment that you can get from Walmart for just $50. That means whenever you get hit with inspiration, you'll be able to immediately take any camera with any budget and translate that message from deep inside of you into a story that people can't get enough of. So if you're ready to get started and take your filmmaking career to the next level, just click on the link below for more information on the 30-day Filmmaking Kickstart.